What if sex was never meant to be confusing, just beautifully designed? Welcome to Sex Rebranded, the podcast that cuts through the noise with bold biblical conversations about sex, marriage, and holistic health. You'll hear the candid perspective of a true newlywed, gain practical wisdom from a mom of 3 young kids, and insight from a doctorally prepared nurse and menopause champion herself. Welcome back to the Sex Rebranded podcast. So we're going to talk about some funny and or embarrassing things that have happened in our relationships. And I'll go first. Mine isn't super funny. I'd say I was more embarrassed from it. But it all worked out in the end. So I was probably dating Caden for maybe a little over a month, maybe. And this is a terrible idea, but I decided to tell him that I loved him. And he freaked out whenever I told him because he was just not ready for that. And he was still processing what that meant to him. And so he freaked out and did not say it back that night. And then I was distraught. And so I felt embarrassed. My recommendation for girls would probably be to wait until your significant other says it first. And just some advice. You don't have to take it or leave it, but
it all worked out, but still.
Yes, we're married now, so it's fine.
Right, all is well.
Now we say it to each other like a bajillion times a day.
Well, okay, so to add on to that story, Caroline, it's funny because Nate and I did their premarital counseling, and I am not a very huggy person, but I do to people who I know and, my close friends, I just say, love you, but it's not like a deep love you. It's like a love to see you type of thing. So
Yeah.
we took Caroline and Caden out for dinner for the first time that we had met Caden. And we had a really good conversation. We were there for maybe an hour and a half. And at the end, I go, love you guys. And then I look at Caden and he was like, probably thinking not again. It was definitely after the month had passed. You had said that. So he's probably like, what? Did she tell her? And I remember texting Caroline and being like, gosh, I'm so sorry I said that. And she was like, oh, it's fine.
The same thing though with the ladies that I worked out with.
Yeah, you just say it.
Especially before I leave because, and I mean, what if I don't ever see them again? And they're very, not to get emotional, but they're very important, in my life and in my health journey and like dear friends of mine. So, and with the hug thing, I used to not be a hugger, but then I thought, what I don't really need the hug, but what if they do?
Somebody else might.
So I've kind of switched gears on that. I don't know if you noticed that, Caroline. I've tried to be better about showing affection and, in our family, we always tell each other we love each other. Like, anytime we're leaving or getting off the phone and, Barry's been consistently has done that. I feel like with me and the girls, just not just thinking that we know it,
right?
But being careful, and even with his mom, telling her before we leave or before he gets off the phone.
Yeah.
So that's not something that was natural to me, but I've had to work on it.
I think it does have a lot to do with how you're raised in your family environment because like you just said, in our family, it's normal. If you hang up the phone without saying love you, bye, it's what did I do? Are you mad at me? And
I'm saying, what in the world?
and then I feel like in his family it's less normal. It's not a frequent exit, I guess,
right,
notion.
not a closing bit.
Right. And so for me it was just I tell people that I spend way less time with that, and so it's why wouldn't I tell you? Why is this such a big deal? But I guess it just, I don't know. And then I can see how it could mean different things in, like, a dating relationship. Like, some people think it means, like, you're committing to that person for,
Right.
like, I don't know, but I didn't really think of it that way.
Hmm.
Like, it wasn't really at the time, it wasn't really any different from me saying, like, "I love you" to, like, one of my friends
Yeah.
than to him. So, I
What
don't know.
about since you're talking about dating and you talked a little bit about boundaries, but then and when you talk about like dating or deciding on whether to tell the person that you love them, but what about like all of the emotional things? What about like your, you know, hopes and dreams and your what you're learning from the Lord right now and all of those things that are very intimate, like not just physical intimacy. When do you share those things with someone you're dating or engaged? How does
Yeah,
that transition?
that's a tough question. I think it depends on, like, what your timeline is. Like, Kaden and I dated for 11 months and then had a 9-month long engagement, and so once we knew we were going to marry each other, then we kind of started letting down, I guess, our guard when it comes to emotional and yeah, like, emotional boundaries. Um, but I feel like at the very beginning, you gotta be really careful. Like, if you're relying and depending on this person for emotional security or stability, I feel like that's a red flag.
Hmm.
And then if you think like, okay, if we were to break up tomorrow, because early on in dating, like that could happen. And if you already know that should happen, like you should break up with the person if you know you're not gonna marry them. If you don't, then that's like you're doing them a disservice by keeping stringing them along and you're misleading them basically if you keep dating them when you know you're not gonna marry them. And so if you think to yourself like, "Okay, if we broke up tomorrow, would I be absolutely heartbroken and devastated?" Then you've probably shared too much and shared too were too emotionally intimate with them. Um, as you date for longer, then that's where it kinda gets into, like, gray waters because people date for a varied amount of time for a varied amount of reasons and circumstances, and so I feel like you just gotta you just be wise about it. I don't know, it's hard because it's a lot less black and white than physical boundaries.
So, okay,
Mhm.
so to add on to that statement, I think you definitely want to have certain limits that you share. I know for Nate and I, just taking an example, we both were called to full time ministry, and we both knew that we were looking for somebody that also was called to the same capacity as we were. And so for us, some of those, and I don't know, some people say deeper, other people just say more direct questions. We knew we wanted to ask each other from the beginning. And I think, you have to take into account processing and looking for those red and yellow flags. But also, you should watch that person even before your dating journey begins. And I think that a lot is revealed when you do that the right way. So I know this is a topic for probably another day, but it's interesting how even in the Bible, there was no mention of dating because dating didn't exist, and how we've created this massive dating culture that is it really working? For maybe some it is. I actually never dated anybody officially. I wasn't ever anyone else's girlfriend until I met my husband, Nate. And that was my first official relationship. And the same for him. We had dated before, we had gone on dates, sometimes multiple dates with the same person. But at the end of the day, we just knew, we're not ready to commit and this isn't right. And so we decided to hold off and wait until we actually knew that this is the direction that we wanted it to go. So
Yeah.
I think it's processing when to ask those serious questions and, figuring out whether you want to continue even before you say yes to being, their official girlfriend or boyfriend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
As we've had these snow days, I've been considering, like, you have to really like a person to be snowed in the house with them. Thankfully, Barry and I are good. We're friends, but
Yeah.
it's a lot of concentrated time.
Oh my gosh, it is.
I think if you're deciding on who to marry, then you would think, would I be cool with, you know, stuck in a house with
Mhm.
this person for days on end?
Well, that's a good question to leave our listeners with if they're not married yet. When discarding marriage, ask yourself, would I want to be stuck inside in a snowstorm with this person?
It's right. I love it. Well, actually, I had one happen the other day, but I don't know. I think Nate would be like, Lindsay, why are you sharing this story? Oh gosh. Yeah. I feel like we've had so many stories.
You
And
know, it must she's blushing thinking about it.
well, and okay, I won't say exactly what I said, but I will say so Nate, we're pastors, and there are many times where he has to take a phone call in another room. And, we always know, hey, dad's on the phone. We're not going to bother him. I keep the kids. And it was one of those situations where I totally spaced, like completely forgot that he was on the phone. And I think Jackson had run in and I knew I needed to get him out of the room, but I didn't remember that he was on the phone. Like I thought he was just working on his message. And I bust in and I say something completely racy. And Nate like whips around and he goes, Lindsay. And I go, I like backpedal as much as I can. And then I was like, forget it. I just got to get out of the room. So I just grabbed Jax, ran out the room. And then you're so embarrassed that you're just hysterically laughing. And so I was in the kitchen, like hysterically laughing. And I hear Nate in the other room and he was like trying to recover. And he was like, oh, yeah, that was just my wife. They're just home with me right now. It's like, I'm so sorry. So he's looking at me right now. I didn't say what I said. But it was just one of those funny things where I was like, oh my word. Like,
Did the person on the phone hear or did
oh
they?
yeah. And they were like, they kind of like giggled, like, oh, this is like really awkward for me to hear right now. So thankfully it wasn't anybody that attended our church. I would have probably died, but it was just one of those funny stories you'll never forget. Okay, now you
Mom,
guys
do you
have
have
to share.
Mom, do you have a funny story or
I was
embarrassing
trying to
story?
think if anything funny has happened. But so, just to tell Lindsay, Caroline knows this happens to me. So I was really okay. First of all, this senator was putting these new blinds in our master bedroom, and he was a senator, and then he had a company on the side that put in those heavy duty wooden blinds.
Oh,
Well, he was like midway through the process, so I texted him that I just said, "Come on in. My bedroom door is open."
yeah.
And then I put an emoji, like a winking emoji. And okay, and
Not the emoji.
life in me.
It was the emoji that did it. If sans emoji, it would have been fine. But
Right. When you added that
And
wink face.
winking emoji. And then it was like one of those moments I hit send. And I think Barry was home. I don't know if he was home. I don't know if he was at work or home, but I just freaked out.
Yeah.
Like I don't even think I talked to him in person after that. I think I let Barry like take
You're
care
like,
of
I'm
the
done.
rest.
I
Yeah.
would have just like after I realized my mistake, I would have just texted back and been like, "Hey, so sorry. I did not mean to put the emoji on there. And then because people understand, like I mistype stuff all the time. So
Siri autocorrected a winky emoji.
blame Siri.
Right?
I just felt like it was digging deeper.
That's
I can't think of any
Kelly.
really things that like that have happened.
Well, that's all we're going to talk about today on the podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed our conversation. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Sex Rebranded. If you have a question you want answered or a topic you want to be talked about on the podcast, send us an email at sexrebranded@gmail.com.